In one of the Roman Empire's darkest hours, when its might seemed irrevocably shattered by a succession of devastating defeats and the tragic loss of its reigning emperor, a commander emerged onto the historical stage, destined to restore Rome's lost supremacy over the indomitable Goths. This man, Aemilian, whose name became a symbol of rekindled hope, was ultimately proclaimed emperor by his own victorious troops. Born around 210 AD, the details of Aemilian's early life remain shrouded in mystery, yet some fragments of information have endured through the centuries. An anonymous collection titled On the Caesars, compiled in the late 4th century, pinpoints his birthplace as the secluded Gabes Island, situated off the coast of western Tunisia. It appears he hailed from a rather humble family, one that likely acquired Roman citizenship during the late Republic, a period when his homeland was under the influence of the powerful Aemilius Lepidus. It was a common practice in those times to adopt the name of the person who bestowed citizenship, and the name Marcus Aemilius Aemilianus eloquently underscores this ancient connection to that influential Roman lineage. The early chapters of his career are largely unknown, as if foreshadowing his sudden and meteoric ascent. It was not until the reign of Emperor Trebonianus Gallus that Aemilian's name reappeared in the annals, when he was entrusted with the governorship of the Mosian provinces along the strategically vital Danube frontier. He assumed this crucial role, replacing the emperor himself, a testament to the considerable trust placed in him. Gallus, who had ascended to the throne after the tragic death of Decius in battle against the Goths, had been compelled to affix his seal to a humiliating peace treaty, obliging the empire to pay tribute to the barbarians. Aemilian's appointment as governor of the Mosian provinces seemed to signify Gallus's profound confidence in him, a trust that, as time would soon reveal, proved entirely misplaced and ultimately perilous for the imperial throne. No sooner had Aemilian established himself in his new province than he displayed an unprecedented audacity. He flatly refused to pay the Goths the full sum owed to them under the ignominious treaty, which Gallus had concluded after the catastrophic defeat at the Battle of Abritus. The barbarians, accustomed to easy plunder, swiftly retaliated, demanding even greater payments and attempting to extort more wealth from Moesia. In this critical moment, Aemilian, possessing a formidable strategic mind, addressed his soldiers with a promise that ignited their spirits. He swore that all the riches surrendered to the Goths would be returned to them, the Roman legionaries, if they would march against the barbarians. With the fervent backing of his troops, Aemilian was able to catch the Goths by surprise, delivering a crushing blow. This brilliant campaign not only routed the enemy but also saw him invade their territory, reclaiming a significant portion of the spoils previously seized by the Goths. While the true strategic significance of this victory may be a subject of historical debate, its impact on Roman morale was truly monumental. In recent years, the Roman Empire had endured a deep crisis, suffering from relentless Gothic incursions and the unprecedented loss of a reigning emperor on the battlefield. Against this backdrop, Aemilian's triumph became a beacon of hope, a symbol of revitalized Roman valor. Soon after this momentous victory, his jubilant soldiers proclaimed Aemilian Emperor of Rome. Without losing a moment, he swiftly assembled an army in Moesia, consciously weakening the province's defenses, and immediately marched on Rome. His objective was clear and ambitious, to assert his imperial claims and depose Trebonianus Gallus from the throne, bringing an end to his reign. The fate of the empire hung in the balance, and every step Aemilian took brought it closer to an inevitable reckoning. Aemilian's arrival on the Apennine Peninsula occurred with astonishing speed, far outpacing all expectations and catching the reigning emperor completely unprepared for such a turn of events. Emperor Gallus, recognizing the imminent danger, immediately dispatched word to Publius Licinius Valerian, the commander of the forces stationed on the Rhine frontier, demanding urgent reinforcements. However, Aemilian's rapid and forced march allowed him to reach Italy long before Valerian's legions could traverse the considerable distance. Thus, before Gallus and Aemilian could engage in a decisive confrontation, Gallus's own soldiers committed an act of betrayal, taking his life and promptly defecting to the newly arrived Aemilian. Notably, Aemilian, having solidified his power, addressed a letter to the Senate in Rome, outlining his ambitious plans. In this dispatch, he promised to deliver the vast empire from the threat of barbarian invasions and also announced an upcoming campaign against the mighty Persia. Furthermore, he expressed his willingness to transfer the fullness of civil authority to the Senate, while pledging to remain their loyal general, wholly dedicated to military affairs and battles. Such a proposition implied a fundamental division of state functions. The Senate would assume responsibility for civil administration, while Aemilian himself would focus exclusively on the military sphere. Unfortunately, Aemilian's reign proved exceedingly brief, and thus historians never had the opportunity to witness what results this proposed model of governance would have yielded for the empire. Meanwhile, Valerian, already actively gathering his military contingents, was preparing for an invasion of Italy with the aim of supporting Emperor Gallus. Upon receiving news of Gallus's sudden death, he promptly declared himself emperor and directed his forces to meet Aemilian. It appears that the soldiers, assessing the unfolding situation, deemed Aemilian less capable militarily, while Valerian presented himself as a more skilled and influential leader in matters of state governance. As a result, they took swift and decisive action, assassinating Aemilian before any large-scale battle could take place. Aemilian's period of rule, therefore, spanned only a few months, lasting from June to September 253 AD. Aemilian stands before us as a typical representative of the 3rd century emperors, an era of great upheaval for the Roman Empire. He succeeded in inflicting a crushing defeat on the Goths, which undoubtedly restored a significant portion of lost Roman pride and prestige. As was characteristic of any successful general of that turbulent 3rd century, he was immediately proclaimed emperor. However, this process often necessitated the withdrawal of frontier troops from their strategically vital border positions, which inevitably weakened the empire's overall defensive capabilities. His reign proved short-lived, and ultimately, he was tragically killed by his own soldiers. This act occurred when the legionaries deemed Valerian to possess a clearer advantage in the struggle for power. His idea of separating civil and military affairs remains noteworthy, though unrealized. Since this concept never received practical implementation, it unfortunately remains merely a curious fact in the annals of history.